How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So let's hop into our first video from the book, The Wild Way to Lucid Dreaming. And so as I was going through my highlights trying to figure out where exactly it is that I wanted to start, it dawned on me that I'm covering this book and I'm making these videos in a bit of a different way than I typically would, where most of the time, once I start making the videos on the different books that we have covered on the channel, I'll typically start making those videos as soon as I finished reading the entire book, or if not the whole book, I'll be like 3/4 of the way through the book when I start to make the videos. And that's particularly good because at that point, I still have everything fresh in my mind, so I generally know, the path or the course that the book takes. Now, when it comes to this one, I finished reading it not all that long ago, like a month and a half ago or so. But since then, I've read like 2 other books. So I kind of forget exactly what's covered in here. And I bring that up specifically because for this first part that we're going over, I have a very obvious rebuttal in my head that I kind of want to throw back to him. And I'm not sure if he answers this rebuttal later on in the book or not. Going off memory, I don't think he does, but I'm not about to go, read through all my different highlights and the little notes I've made to see, if he does cover it or not. But anyway, we'll just kind of roll with it and, see what comes up as we go. Okay, so for starters, he talks about how he was trying to learn how to lucid dream for years, going with the classic DILD approaches to the practice. So dream-induced lucid dream, right? Where basically you're trying to, midway through the dream, I don't know if you can hear my cat meowing at me, midway through the dream, realize that you're in a dream and then go ahead and get lucid. So he was trying with that for years, not having any success. At this point, he didn't even know what wilds were. And then just, through pure random chance, he happens to stumble his way into a wild. It blows his mind. He ditches DILDs forever and just focuses completely on the wild approach to lucid dreaming. So here's what he has to say. For some reason, totally unknown to me, between the 2 most basic methods of lucid dreaming available, dream-induced and wake-induced, the wild way is considered to be the more difficult of the 2. Its practitioners are held in seemingly high esteem by those in dreaming circles who profess to be in the know, although I honestly don't know why, because experience has proven to me that the complete reverse is true. And so it is true that most of the time when people are teaching the practice of lucid dreaming, we will tend to default to teaching the DILD approaches to the practice, like doing reality checks and stuff like that. And I think for a lot of times we steer away from the wild approach just because it is kind of more difficult to do. And this is where my kind of rebuttal to him would come into play, where most of the time for most people, although for him this seems not to be the case, when you initially go to sleep at night, right, you're not going to go from these light stages of sleep like stage 1 and stage 2 directly into REM. You'll go stage 1, stage 2, then you hit like stages 3, 4, the deep sleep, the stuff they used to call dreamless sleep, right? And you do that for a big portion of your first 2 sleep cycles, roughly 2 sleep cycles. So you typically don't go from like stage 1 into REM until after like 3 hours or so of sleep. And if you're not going from these early stages of sleep into REM, it's not like it's impossible, but it makes it way more difficult to have a true wild, because when you want to have a true wild, you're in REM, right? You're not in, say, like hypnagogia, right? Like stage 1 of sleep stuff. So I think that's one of the reasons why we tend to teach the DILD approaches first. However, if you're gonna go ahead and throw like wake back to bed in there, at that point, yeah, you can have a wild. Not super easy, but at that point I would prioritize probably trying to have a wild in a DILD. And then even if your wild is unsuccessful, but say you missed the actual transition into the dream, but then a little while later, moments later, a minute or 2 later, at that point your consciousness kicks in, you realize you are within a dream, and then you get lucid then, so I would still consider that to be a DILD and not a wild. Like for me to call it a wild, I want to see the entire transition from this, stage 1 of sleep hypnagogia stuff getting pulled or sucked into the image, and boom, you're in there, in the first person like you are in waking life. Anyway, then he goes on to talk a bit more about DILDs and about why they're difficult, because they take a lot of practice and training and also a bit of luck, to go ahead. Catman, what are you doing? Leave that alone, buddy. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. And so he continues to talk about, now he's comparing DILDs to wilds, right? So with wilds, however, the complete opposite is true, in that with very little practice, one can learn to quite easily enter into a variety of lucid dreaming states. And I really underline that variety of lucid dreaming states at will and on demand. And I underlined that variety of lucid dreaming states because that makes me wonder if he's actually talking more about being lucid in hypnagogia, right? What I would call hypnagogic meditation or liminal dream stuff, not being lucid in a straight up REM style dream, right? So anyway, and then we'll end it off with this, and this is basically his whole trajectory for the book. I would like to put you in touch with the method of lucid dreaming that is not only very easy to put into practice, but one that will also provide you with rapid and startling results, a method that will cost you no further investment than the modest price of this book alone, or, you know, watching my videos as I basically cover everything that's going to be in this book. So anyway, with that said, that wraps up the first video, and until the next video, keep your lucid dreaming practice legit.